Hi everyone, and welcome to the premiere video of my channel, North Garden Comics. For this first episode, I'm starting a series that I'm calling My Comic Book Adventures, where I'll show you the good comics that I find for great prices at different shows, sales, and conventions. Today's adventure takes us to a free admission show called the Twin Cities Comic and Toy Expo, where I came home with 36 books for just $30. Check it out. Okay, let me start by showing you the stack of books that I came home with from this show. Here it is, that's 36 comic books, and again, I paid a total of $30 for the day. The hosts of this show will actually do shows like this 4 or 5 times a year, always free admission, and in case you've never been to a show like this, they're small, usually in a venue like a VFW, and so we're talking one room, maybe 10, 12, 14 vendors tops. Those who have comic books will usually have wall books, so more valuable single issues that are key issues. And I've never bought a wall book. I'll look at them, but mostly to see if there's anything on their wall that I already have in my collection and just to see what they're selling it for. But I'm there primarily, I start with the cheapest books first. I'll look for the 50-cent books, I'll look then for the dollar books, and then maybe if I'm feeling sporty, I'll go to the $2 books because I'm looking to see what are the best books that I can find for that really inexpensive price. So that being said, the first table I went to, he had his comic books in 2 short boxes down at the end of his table. They were all bagged and boarded and they were only $1 a piece. And I bought 2 things from him. These are 2 single issues from a story that I've recently started to put together. And they're from the first volume of Batman, a story called Hush, very popular Batman story from the early 2000s. It was made into an animated movie last year. I've never read it, but I've heard good things about it. It's got Jim Lee art, which always makes me feel nostalgic because when I started collecting, it was the late 80s, early 90s, and he was really big then. So this always makes me harken back to those early days of collecting when I see Jim Lee art. Another reason I was drawn to these issues is because while I could easily buy the trade paperback, I get more excitement and thrill in hunting for comics when I'm looking for these single issues. And about a month ago, I found my first issue in this story. It's a 12-part story, and I found it for $1 at a half-price book, so I got that. And now I've been trying to just piece together the other 11 issues. So found that one for $1, that's number 611. And then I found, oh, no, that was 618. This is 611. So I found those. Now I have 3, 9 more to go, and again, only $1 a piece for those. Went to the table right next to him, and I came away with 5 comics in his 50-cent bin. These are from a run that I have slowly been piecing together, the Ultimate X-Men run, which started back in, I guess it was 2001 when the Ultimate Universe kicked off. 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. The only issue of this series I've ever had was the free comic book day edition of number 1, but then it was a year or so ago, I was on a work trip and I went into a half-price books and they had a bunch of these for 50 cents a piece, and I decided, well, it's a 100-issue volume, I love the X-Men, why don't I try to piece this together? So I think I found early on, starting with issues number 2 and then up to like number 10, and subsequently since then I've found 2 or 3 copies of that first printing of number 1 that I got really cheap, and now I've just been trying to take it bite at a time, working my way up the numbers until I have all 100. And he had exactly the 5 issues I needed next. It was number 41, sorry for the glare, 42, 43, 44, sorry, and 45. So I picked those up, checked them off my wish list, and now I'll advance my wish list up to 46 to 55, something like that, get the next 10 issues. Moving on to his dollar books, I think I found 8 things there. The next one's still an Ultimate X-Men. Again, this was $1 though instead of 50 cents. This one I picked up. I have the regular cover of this one on my wish list as well, but this is an example of one. If you look in the Overstreet price guide, this will value this cover at about $10. And for me, that's another fun thing to do, or it's an example of finding that higher valued comic for really cheap. So $10 value that's put in the value book for this, I'm not going to sell it, but it's just fun to know that it gets valued at 10 times what I paid for it. This is a retailer sketch cover, and you can see the price is $0. I don't know what the retailers had to do to get this. Maybe they had to buy a certain number of issues of the regular cover to get that, but got it for $1. Picked up this Uncanny X-Men 198. Seems random, but I have been trying to piece together the Uncanny X-Men Volume 1. I'm starting from the issue, I think it's 143, the issue after Days of Future Past, because those I find I can hunt down much more easily for inexpensive than everything that came before it. Those price tags seem to ratchet up quickly. So I've only got about 5 or 6 issues left to have everything from like that 143, 144 number all the way up to 544, which was the end of the first volume. And this was actually one, I have 2 copies of this already, but they're pretty beat up, and so this was an upgrade copy for $1. Sometimes when it rains, it pours when you're looking for things. I found 2 more issues in the Batman Hush story. So one table away from where I picked up those other 2, he had Batman 615, and what is that, 616, also $1 a piece. So now here I am. A month ago I didn't have any issues out of 12, and now I have 5 of 12 issues. Also picked up a copy of Daredevil number 137. This was not on my wish list. This, though, hits some checks all the boxes that I'm also looking for. I love this era of Marvel in the 70s and 80s when they had that Marvel Comics Group banner, and I'm always drawn to those covers. A lot of those covers on different titles just seem cool to me, and I love the character of Daredevil. Really got into him through the Born Again story, and then through the Netflix series. I love this solo character, and even though I wasn't looking for this issue, it's an older issue in decent condition, and it was only $1. So those boxes get checked, and I'm not going to leave it behind. The next 2 I'll show you, actually, I picked up really because I saw them, the app called the Key Collector Comics app, and I will pull that out when I see certain things in the bins because I don't know all the key issues and I'm not looking for all the key issues. But if I see something, I wonder if that's in the Key Collector Comics app, I'll whip that out, look it up. And I found 2 from the Spectacular Spider-Man volume from 70s, 80s that were in his app, and they were valued at high quality condition. You're talking $7 to $10 each, so nothing spectacular, but still fun to find for $1. There was Spectacular Spider-Man number 9. This is the first appearance of a character called White Tiger. And then also number 25, first appearance of a character called Carrion. But again, shout out to Key Collector Comics for highlighting those issues that I picked up for $1. The last one I'm going to show you here isn't a key of any kind, but it was a key to me. It's All New X-Men number 17 variant cover. This is a series, I like the series a lot. I have all the issues already. This was a variant cover that I never got when it came out, never saw it, and I've been hunting for it ever since. I just love the art of Beast and Magic and this high-rise apartment building in the back. I wasn't sure that I'd ever find it in the wild, and this was the very first time I've ever seen it, and it was only $1. So that was a really cool pickup. Another example of something where if I wanted to spend a little more, I could buy it online, but it's more exciting for me to hold out, have that patience, and see, will I find it? And I did. So that was table number 2. There was one other table that I purchased from, and it was actually from one of the hosts of the show. For him, I actually came away with the most books. I came away with 21 books from his table, and he just gave them to me for $20. But we'll kind of just cruise through these here. You heard me say before, I love the X-Men. I like Rogue and Gambit. This is number 4 of a 5-part miniseries that I've never read. Been piecing it together on the cheap, so I spent $1 for number 4. Once I have number 5, I will have the full miniseries. Similarly, Mr. and Mrs. X, number 12 of 12, a volume they had with a married couple here. Piecing that one together. I think I need 2 more issues in that run. This is a cool find. This is Gambit number 1 from a 4-part miniseries, and this I think is valued in Key Collector Comics for about $10. The really valuable one is the all gold cover, which I have not seen yet. I'm going to keep hunting for that one. That's still living on my wish list. This one's in really good shape, and I'll just show you the pages here. The whites are really white. The pages are really crisp, and sometimes you can really see that on pages with advertisements. So that one's in really good shape for $1. Another thing I want to point out about this that I notice way more often than you'd think you would. The bag and board that you get with a lot of comics these days, the board is, it calls itself acid-free, but then it's only coated on one side, and that's the acid-free side. The other side has more of a matte finish, and that is not the protected side. And the way you're supposed to put the bag and board together is that the comic will sit against that glossy side, because that's the protected side. And I can't tell you how many times I buy these books at stores and shows and things, and you take it out and you see that comic is just up against that matte side. So just, I don't know, one of the things that stands out to me is surprising that they would get put together that way when you're supposed to put that on the glossy side. Anyway, moving on. I picked up Descender number 13. This is from Image Comics. Just been trying to piece this series together, and with this issue, I now have every issue in the 32 issue volume with the exception of number 1. And again, I'm going to be a stinker. I could buy number 1 for $1 or less in a reprint version. Image calls them, I think, Image Firsts is the banner they'll have up the side. But I'm going to hold out and see if I can find that number 1 in a first printing for $1 or $2 at some point. The next 2 books I picked up for the artist, cover artist and or interior artist, and that is Chris Bachalo art. This is a cover he did for a Ghost Rider annual, and you can see there's a bag in the bag. This is not opened, so it's still in great condition in there, unopened. I like his art. He's done a lot of things with Deadpool, Amazing Spider-Man, Generation X and Generation Next back at the Age of Apocalypse in the 90s, but I really like his art. It's a unique style, and so I try to pick his stuff up when I can find it. Same reason here, this A+X number 2, he does both the cover and the interior art, $1 a piece. I got 2 issues from this Hulk volume. I think this went for 10 issues, and then the legacy numbering kicked in. But this is character She-Hulk. I just like her as a character, so when I can find her issues for cheap, I pick them up. Here's an issue from Uncanny X-Force, number 2. The only issues I have so far of this volume are from it's called the Dark Angel Saga, which is somewhere in the 11 to 17 kind of a range. But as you start to learn more about these volumes, you see who the artists are, who the writers are, and as I see ones I like, then my wish list just grows, and now I'm trying to put together this whole volume. Here's an Old Man Hawkeye number 10 out of 12 that I picked up. Dark Reign, Young Avengers. Saw this one on the Key Collector Comics app as well. I want to put together the 12-issue first volume of Young Avengers. I only have 1 or 2 of those so far, but here's another mini-series from the Dark Reign banner that they did several years ago now, but grab that for $1. And then the rest of these are some different Amazing Spider-Mans that I picked up from different volumes over the years. Here's one from not the current, but the second volume, second most recent volume of the last volume of Amazing Spider-Man. I have some of these issues, but I have some holes, and I was able to find number 798. A while back, I was reading about the Straczynski and Romita Jr. run on Amazing Spider-Man, and I found several of those issues, and now I've made it a goal to collect all of those, so I got 1 more there, number 42. And then these last ones are actually all from the current volume of Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man Today is not one I'm collecting every month new, though I do collect a lot of new comic books. This is a title that I'm trying to piece together as I can over time, and I found several issues. I found number 6. You can ignore the price tags. I know a lot of these say like $4, $3. They were all just $1. Number 7. Number 8. A variant of number 8. Uncanny X-Men variant of number 10. Fantastic Four Villains variant of number 11. Number 12. And then, not in order, but jumping ahead to number 25, got this, again, cover price on this was $7.99, but I got it for $1, so I wasn't going to leave that behind. Well, that's it for this adventure. If you have questions or comments, I'd love to see them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.